What's your worst experience of post-nut clarity? I had sex with this girl once and had a panic attack afterward and moved across the country. Longer version is that I had moved across the country on my own without a job lined up, started dating this girl and went on a trip with her to a bed and breakfast. After the sex I just snapped and all of the WTF am I even doing here, on my own, no job, just fucking around? Feelings ran through me. I moved back home and decided to go to grad school after. The random hookup was just the catalyst I needed to realize I was going down the wrong path. This was my first girlfriend in high school. She was already more active than me at the time, and after one round I thought the condom slipped off. When I said this, her response was something along the lines of, "If I get pregnant that's your problem cause you're the one who is fucking me." I broke up with her the day after she told me she got her period. This involves me hiding how bad my flu symptoms were. I was running a fever and she was taking care of me. During a moment of intimacy I got hard and pressed into her. She took that as go time and I let her. The instant I nut I realized the mistake. I got the wave of exhaustion and pain all over my body and I realized how dehydrated I was. She was happy. I was dying. I fucked a biker chic that was about 55 with huge boobs pushed up under her chin. 22-year-old me went cross-eyed with horny brain and took her home. It was a really good fuck, but once I blew ropers all over the place I realized I just fucked a lady, who was smoking a cigarette with my vinegar strokes still on her and older than my mom. When she started talking about her 28-year son's getting patched in I just kept sinking lower and lower, felt horrible and terrified at the same time. Created a throwaway. So, I met a girl at a bar. It had a smoking lounge area, was a separate room and we were the only two people in there. We were laughing and joking. At the time, I had an incredibly smooth face. I looked fairly androgynous without trying. Through the course of the evening she said repeatedly that I was attractive and normally she wasn't a woman but I would be worth the roll. Much more alcohol was consumed. We took a cab to her place and the usual stuff was happening. Kissing, oral. Then she asked how I felt about ass play. Well, when I am super drunk I apparently felt very brave about it. She asked me to hold on and came back with a pair of panties she wanted me to wear. Well, alcohol had taken me this far, why not see where this ride takes me? She was fingering me and giving me oral and I was sitting there, these weird panties pushed to the side, giving me whatever the panty equivalent to rope burn is on the side of my dick and balls. Did I ask to stop? No, I didn't. Thanks, penis. Eventually she asks me if I'm ready to try something she's always been interested in. I said sure, assuming erroneously that it would be my dick inside of her. It was not. That was not what she had planned. She came back with a 5-inch purple strap-on that she was going to put in me. Well, you made it this far, said alcohol. Let's see what happens next. It was a dildo in my ass, a purple dildo while I am wearing panties that are just shredding my skin. My body rocketed out my natural defense mechanism while she was jacking me off and I shot emergency cum all over myself. I then realized that I'm not enjoying this at all. I don't like the feeling of it. I'm in an awkward position. I'm covered in cum and some stranger's panties are digging into my skin. She takes the very clearly self-defense orgasm instead as a signal to go faster and fuck harder. I try to soldier through until she is finished, and it just doesn't happen. It doesn't stop. I mention that I'm getting uncomfortable and she pulls out, and spreads my ass with her hands and is just looking at my asshole. I am now a man, covered in his own shame, while a woman I have just met is spreading my ass and admiring her handiwork. I finally say I'm done. I get dressed as fast as possible and leave. This is the first time I've ever mentioned it, but it honestly made me question following alcohol's directives in the future. Some people have consent worries, and I very much appreciate it. Without giving away too much info, I am a giant human being. Not gonna give away my actual height on here, but between 6'6" and 6'9". I could have physically stopped her at any moment. I just didn't because my decision-making when horny is ... not ideal and I was honestly curious about what was coming next. Stop giving my throwaway awards, you monsters. Went on first date a few months after getting dumped by my girlfriend of 5 years. Didn't know what was gonna happen but ended up back at this girl's place. "Are you gonna fuck me or what?" was a question she asked. So I did. I didn't want to, but the couple margaritas I had before had other ideas. I lasted about 30 seconds. Then I told her I just gotten out of a relationship and that was the last thing I should have been doing. She cried and yelled and broke some stuff and I took an Uber home. One day, I took a walk in the fields and, young as I was back then, suddenly decided to nut in the middle of nowhere. It was only after I had finished that I remembered that a friend of my dad, both were hunters, had told him that he had set up one of those motion-detecting wildlife cameras in that field a few days prior. I spent the next 2 hours searching for that one before finding it attached to a tree and pointing in the opposite direction. But still, it was a very uncomfortable situation. When I was in college I shared an apartment with my best friend from high school. We had been best friends since elementary school. Did everything together. My girlfriend came over one night and the three of us got completely wasted. So eventually me and my girlfriend staggered back to my bedroom. My best friend, who was sitting on the couch, asked where we were going. I drunkenly yelled, "We're gonna fuck. Come see how to do it right." So me and my girlfriend start going at it. Eventually I blow my load, which is surprisingly difficult when you're drunk, and took a good half hour. Not my best performance by any measure, but it had the added effect of sobering me up a bit. That's when I noticed my best friend, who I had completely forgotten about, standing at the foot of the bed, pants around his ankles, just watching us go at it and cranking away. I managed to slur out, "What the hell are you doing?" And he sputters, "You told me to." I thought you were cool with it. Needless to say, the look of shame that passed between the two of us. My limp dick laying on my stomach dripping jizz and him standing there holding his mid-stroke was epic. The next day was very uncomfortable. After going all day avoiding eye contact I finally muttered, "Let us never speak of last night again." PSA: if you have a suspected, or known, exposure to HIV, call your doctor or an STI clinic right away. Go to the ER if you can't reach another provider. If you start a course of antiviral drugs within 72 hours, you can drastically reduce your risk of contracting HIV. Go ASAP because every hour counts. Ideally you should begin within 24 hours. It's called PEP, or post-exposure prophylaxis. The best way to stop HIV from spreading is to make sure people know how to stay safe. Funny, my girlfriend, had been together 3.5 years at this point, would frequently ask if I thought we'd get married and my response to her would always be, "Ask me again after the sex." Eventually she was like, "Okay, but just to confirm, you're not planning to roll off of me after sex and propose all sweaty and naked and out of breath, are you?" You can do a better proposal than that. Eventually had to clarify, "No, I say ask me after the sex because determining whether or not we should spend the rest of our lives together requires post-nut clarity. Anything that big in life does." I literally did this last week. It's been fucking brutal. Had the horrible phone call today, that we made a mistake, and have no future together, and I'm yet again, back in the same place. It hurts, confusing, and makes me doubt myself. I used him as a short-term fix for loneliness and undid all the hurt of our first, second, and third breakup. Loneliness makes me do worse things than horny brain. 92 pretty much summed it up. Having sex with an ex-girlfriend that you truly loved after breaking up is emotionally tough, because it's not about the sex, it's the fact that you're still holding on, and in that moment of intimacy you believe to yourself that you will be together. You lay there in love and smiling and talking about how you love each other. But once that person leaves you have to realize that it's not true. The next day you wake up even more emotional because you wished that they were still there like when you were together. I don't know, at least for me has been my experience. In high school I played in their band. We would always stay over the lead singer's house, because his parents would let us drink. My lead singer's sister had a huge crush on me and would always sneak in the guest bedroom and give me handjobs. On one particular night she came in, but didn't realize my guitar player was in the room. We were awake still chatting. Somehow this turned into her ski-poling us. The clarity came when I realized I had finished before him and I had to awkwardly sit there and wait for him to finish. Things were very weird and awkward for a few weeks after that. Masturbated in a school bathroom cause I thought it would be fun. Somebody came in just as I was about to finish, but I was so close I figured fuck it, I'll be quiet and just finish. So I did. I waited for them to leave and eventually everything went quiet, so I figured he left. I cleaned up, went to go wash my hands, and realized he did not leave. Even worse, it turns out that was one of my teachers checking something in the mirror. He didn't say anything and I don't think he ever knew, but I could not look him in the eye ever again. Had an ex-girlfriend that I was with for a little over a year. When we were together we were very straight-edge kids. But after we split we both took a turn down wrong paths. She fell off way harder than I did and started doing meth and shooting up. She called me one night freaking out saying she needed help and a ride, so I went to help. Quickly realized she was just tweaking and wanted a ride to get more, so I took her. But when we got to the spot, whoever she was getting it from said it was going to be a while. She started coming on to me and begging me to have sex with her as a thank you. It quickly went sour ... like it felt like those Exorcist scenes. She was a totally different person. I couldn't even get off because it was so off-putting to me and had to stop her. So I guess not post-nut but clarity nonetheless. I never intended to be an enabler and never was again. On a positive note, she has since gone to rehab and we're both on much better paths. Still keep in touch from time to time. TLDR, don't do drugs, kids. I had sex with my dad's ex-wife, and realized after that the taboo factor only carries you so far. Many mistakes were made. Edit. Alright, it seems some of you want the story. Get ready kids, I'm about to deliver. Although I want to preface that I'm not a good person. So after my parents split up, my dad remarried when I was around 6. Joint custody meant I'd spend a few days a week at my dad's, who worked late and slept a lot. This meant my stepmom babysat me most of the time, took me to the playground. Obviously nothing sexual about it, at least I hope not. My stepmom and dad divorced a few years later, and I didn't see her again. Eventually my dad left my life and I didn't see him either. Oh, also she gave birth to my sister sometime in between all of that, but I've never really talked to her. So my stepmother gave birth to half-sister. When I was a lot older, we started messaging through Facebook. She was married again and had another kid, and my sister was older too, but the marriage wasn't doing so well. I myself was with a long-term girlfriend who lived with me at the time. I don't remember exactly how it started, but I know I made a pass at her. It was something smooth because my dick has a way with words, and I said that my first girlfriend had been over a decade older than me, so I was into older women. It was exciting and wrong. I remember she sent me nudes at her kid's birthday party, not my half-sister's. Anyway, nudes were sent between both of us, and I felt guilty and cut it off, and stopped talking to her for a few years, which was the right decision. Well, during that time, she had divorced her husband and found a new boyfriend, and I had gone through a different relationship that didn't work out. I reached out to her just wanting to talk, innocently, and he started to sext me through her messenger for some reason. Like, oh, she's so into you, she wants you. But the same profile across different devices. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he wanted to scare me away for some reason, or it was an odd fetish for him too. It made her uncomfortable, so we figured it was best to stop talking. Fucking weird. So about a year later her boyfriend died, and a few weeks after that, we started flirting again. Yeah, you read that correctly. I wasn't like, oh shit he died, let me get in that. It was serious and I don't even remember the reason it got brought up. Both of us being single adults, we set up a time and a place to just fuck. Because why not? Here's why not. I was not physically attracted to her, but my dick thought the stepmom thing would be hot. It wasn't. I had a bad feeling when we sent nudes again. She had gotten bigger since we had last talked. And I know that's shallow, but I said I wasn't a good person, so fucking bite me. I had a bad gut feeling. I lied when I said post-nut clarity made me feel this was a mistake. It was before she even picked me up to go back to her place. Just go have fun was what my friend told me. A number. Always listen to your gut. She picked me up and it was crazy seeing her again. The woman who basically took care of me for years. Except now she wanted my dick. And there was so much sexual tension, and I was nervous as hell because I hadn't got laid in over a year. Her house was nice. She had moved out onto her own after her boyfriend died a month before. She dropped off her things while I commented on her Nintendo Switch and asked how my half-sister was doing when I saw a pic of her on the mantle. This sounds worse and worse the more I type it out. She came up to me and we started to kiss, and are you sure you want the details to this? How about the Cliff Notes? I could not get hard. I couldn't. I don't know if it was because I'm not the biggest fan of casual sex, or the attraction just wasn't there. Like I wanted to go home immediately but had already gone this far and didn't want to back out and disappoint her. She still came several times because I don't need to use my dick, and she apparently wanted my entire fist up there anyway. She gave the best head I have ever received. But I wasn't turned on. Yes, I did thrust my dick into the same vagina my half-sister came out of. It was a horrible experience really. I figured out why the sheets were yellow. That was fun. Anyway, after, we cuddled and talked about life and she cried telling me in exact detail how her boyfriend had died and the traumatic memory of it. How that had happened a month earlier, which was the weirdest comfort I have ever given. She went to sleep for work, and I curled up onto the far side of the bed and stayed awake wondering when I'd be able to Uber home without making it awkward. Fortunately, my mom lived less than 5 minutes away, and she'd be able to drop me off before work if I Ubered there. So I excused myself at 4 a.m. and showed up at her place basically unannounced, and didn't really explain much. Just that a one-night stand hadn't gone so well and I needed to get out of there. A long time ago I had mentioned to my mom something about flirting with my stepmom. I guess my mother, being the smart woman she is, deduced where I had been and why, because she knew where my stepmom had moved recently. And my mom didn't judge me, because she gave birth to me, so obviously she was used to mistakes. We don't talk about it, and I went home and showered for an hour and tried to forget it. I felt violated in a weird way. My stepmom thinks it was a good night, but I declined to do anything further because casual sex really isn't for me. It isn't my thing. Never again. I can still smell it on my hands, man. I can still smell it. So at the end of the day, what did we learn, kids? We learned to always trust your gut. Always. Nothing else in this story is important besides that. For all the people who don't understand, I have a pair of underwear with a built-in asp that I bought for shiggles when I was going ice skating with friends, but it is meant as an extra bid and kadonk. It's true, when I wore it that night under my jeans I got a lot of extra attention from the dudes working the skate exchange. It was a foam mass attached to panties so I could pull it on like underwear, but the butt cheeks were extra padded. Sadly, all my ice skating tumbles tended to be toward the side, so next time I would be better off with padded hips and not a padded ass. I met a girl on Tinder, took her for dinner and a hockey game. We went back to my place and had sex. After sex she said something to the extent of, well, there's you and there's another guy, and I don't want to sound like a princess, but I want the two of you to prove who wants me more. And without hesitation I said, he can have you. I'm not interested in that. She thought she was gonna play two guys against each other. You tell me you're fucking some other guy and you think it makes me want you more? You think you're girlfriend material? Now, you'll cheat the first chance you'll get. I'll never trust you. She lost her shit, throwing stuff, yelling, how dare you fuck me if you're not interested, blah blah blah. I had to drive her home in the middle of the night. Does anybody think I was wrong to say that? I was 27 and met a 42-year-old single mom on a dating app. In my head I was thinking she was going to be a MILF and I was going to bag my first cougar. In reality she was a chain-smoking trailer park Tammy with a Confederate flag above her bed. I still had sex with her anyway. Post-nut clarity got me to realize her house smelled like feet and she had cockroaches crawling everywhere.